In this video, Dr. Jordan Peterson explains how things can get more complex when we look at them closely.
So anyways, back to the couple that are sitting there talking. They're having this argument. They're trying to sort out what this is about. And the problem is, well, it's about everything that the argument is about, plus everything that's ever happened to them in their relationship. Because, you know, if someone has told you the same thing 50 times, it is not the same thing as the thing they told you the first time, right? God only knows how many transformations it's gone through as it's been continually repeated, and how many different arguments it's been embedded in, and how many things you have to know to understand the shades of intonation and all of that. But basically, each utterance that a couple produces its meaning is determined by the entire history of interactions that those two people have had. And so how are you going to specify that? It's very, very difficult to specify it. Now you really can't, and it's also difficult to know when you've specified it enough. You know, so one of the things that's interesting about training as a psychoanalyst is that it starts to become absolutely mind-boggling how much archaeology you can undertake underneath a single statement. Especially if it's delivered with a bit of an edge and some contempt. It's like there are just levels and levels and levels and levels and levels of meaning underneath that. And you can tell that when you're engaged in an argument like that, because someone will trigger you, let's say, for lack of a better word, and you know they'll have broken a rule that you've established with them, and you're both in a pit. And you know the fight is about that pit, even though maybe it's about some surface thing. And you're just running around there like rats that are lit on fire, and there's nothing you can do about it, you know. And it's a consequence of all the issues that are lurking beneath the surface of that speech act that seemed to be something you could capture it on video. You'd say, well, here's what you said. There's a videotape recording of it. It's like, no, that's not what you said, because the videotape does not capture the context, and it can't. So you can't even get an objective record of the meaning of a conversation, because the meaning isn't right in the conversation. So, okay, so that's one of the problems. One of the problems with trying to validate moral claims is that you've got this insane contextual complexity that's almost impossible to dispose of. And so you could even say that if person A did action A in situation A, that would be right, and if person B did action A in situation A, that would be wrong. It would depend on the person. And so it's very easy to slip from that into a kind of moral relativism, because how in the world do you deal with the complexity, and how do you make a truth claim? And so I would really say, in some sense, that's the intellectual situation in modern universities. Now, the other thing that's kind of interesting is this was actually discovered in a number of different fields simultaneously. So just as the literary theorists started to discover, say, after World War II, that it wasn't enough to say that a book has meaning in it, that there's something wrong with that, and that there isn't a single meaning, there's a multiplicity of meanings, and it's not even a stable multiplicity of meanings. People were finding that out in other domains as well. For example, in artificial intelligence, where it became very, very obvious very rapidly that perceiving a simple object was not simple, because objects aren't simple, and the border between one object and another is in some sense arbitrary. Right, I mean, when I look at each of you, I sort of see you as entities, right? But that's because I see you at this level of resolution. You know, your cellular masses at a different level of resolution, your molecular composites at a different level of resolution. There are you're made up of 10 times as many bacteria as cells at another level of resolution. So really, you're more like an ocean than you are like an entity. And then, well, is it you or your family that's the real? Or is it you, your family, and your culture? Or what about your species? Or, you know, or are you a mammal? It's like all of those things and all of those things and any of those things at the same time. And so when I look at you, what am I supposed to see? You know, do I see individual with name, or do I see ethnicity, or do I see, well, you get the picture. So object perception turns out to be extraordinarily difficult, because things aren't just simple objects, even if they're relatively simple.